If I stop uploading here, you can find me via my website in the description below. Chapter 1496 Escape Plan. The crimson-robed figure's expression changed upon seeing these giant blades, and brilliant crimson light erupted from its body as it prepared to unleash another ability. However, right at this moment, the 5 giant blades suddenly twisted outward before disappeared on the spot. In the next instant, they appeared at the edge of the cloud of blood mist like 5 massive doors, emitting a vast expanse of 5-colored light. The 5-colored light swept the crimson cloud aside without any impediment, and a horrified look finally appeared on the crimson-robed figure's face. He didn't have time to unleash any other secret techniques, so he could only hurriedly sweep his sleeves through the air while opening his mouth at the same time. A small azure shield, a thin crimson veil, and a round bowl were blasted forth at once. The 3 treasures were radiating scintillating light, and it was quite apparent that they were all extraordinarily powerful treasures. As soon as they were unleashed, they transformed into 3 barriers of light of different colors, shielding the crimson-robed figure within. After doing all that, the crimson-robed figure abruptly inhaled before expelling a few mouthfuls of blood essence, then raised a hand to summon a purple talisman. The talisman disappeared into the ball of blood essence in a flash, following which the ball exploded to form a cloud of blood mist that settled over the crimson-robed figure. Immediately thereafter, a suit of purple armor surfaced over his body. This suit of armor was extremely intricately crafted, and there were arcs of electricity crackling over its surface, making it appear as if it was some kind of ethereal, otherworldly treasure. At this moment, the 5-colored light had brushed aside the cloud of blood mist and reached the crimson-robed figure. Following a few crisp cracks, the 3 protective light barriers that had been set up were also shattered in quick succession before the 5-colored light crashed heavily into the crimson-robed figure's body. The purple suit of armor flashed with brilliant light, and it finally kept the 5-colored light at bay, but only for a split second. In the next instant, the 5-colored light began to revolve around the suit of armor, and it was sliced in half at the waist. The crimson-robed figure possessed countless abilities, but none of them stood a chance against this seemingly unstoppable streak of 5-colored light. A hint of despair flashed through the crimson-robed figure's eye as over 100 talismans and a dozen or so treasures of different forms erupted from his body. However, his last-ditch efforts proved to be futile in the end, and all of these objects were pulverized in mere moments by the 5-colored light. A blood-curdling cry rang out as the 5-colored light completely inundated the crimson-robed figure, and not even his soul had been able to escape. A cold light flashed through the puppet's eyes upon seeing this, and it murmured to itself, "The main forte of the 5-dragon chopper is its unmatched cutting power. It's nothing more than a laughable delusion to think that you can withstand its attack using those treasures." It then made a grabbing motion, and the 5 massive blades in the distance transformed into 5 worm projections before flying back toward it. In the end, the 5 worm projections converged overhead to form that shimmering silver chopper again, then descended from above. A hint of elation flashed through the crimson-armored puppet's eyes, and it raised a hand to catch the chopper. But the light in its eyes suddenly dimmed, and its body swayed unsteadily as it almost tumbled out of the sky. Thankfully, it managed to right itself amid a flash of spiritual light, but a resigned look appeared in its eyes. It heaved a faint sigh before catching the silver chopper in its grasp again. It gently swept a hand over the chopper's mirror-like surface, and a burst of ringing erupted from its blade. This treasure is indeed extraordinarily powerful, but the rate at which it exhausts my spiritual sense is just as staggering. Looks like I'll have to put an end to everything the next time I unleash its power. The puppet mused to itself with a contemplative look on its face. At this moment, ferocious yin winds were swept up in the distant sky. A vast expanse of dark clouds descended and suddenly encompassed most of the entire sky. Several high-grade ghostly beings descended amid gusts of yin winds before landing in front of the puppet. "Have you done everything I asked?" the puppet asked. "Rest assured, Master, we've set up everything required. As soon as you enter the divine pond, we'll immediately seal off the area using the formation. Even if someone manages to emerge alive from in there, they won't be able to immediately get away, and we'll be able to trap them for some time." A zombie-like high-grade ghostly being replied in a careful manner. "Half of you come with me. The other half stay behind and take care of the formation. Those people have managed to divert one infernal lightning beast away. But what they don't know is that there's not just one infernal lightning beast guarding, but a couple instead. Consisting of one male and one female, the crimson-armored puppet chuckled coldly. The zombie-like ghostly being seemed to possess a high level of intelligence, and it wore a hesitant look as it said, "Even though those infernal lightning beasts were left behind to guard this place by the elders of your mayfly race, we'd most likely be attacked by them as well, seeing as we don't carry any badges with us to grant us entry. Don't worry, those people went in ahead first, so the infernal lightning beast will attack them first. All you have to do is sneak over and land the killing blows when the opportunities present themselves. With this 5-dragon chopper alone, I wouldn't be overly optimistic about my chances. However, with this infernal lightning beast to assist me, it'd be strange if any of them could escape this place alive. As for the other infernal lightning beast, it's a pity that it was lured away. But had it not been for the fact that it had been drawn away, those people wouldn't have ventured into Divine Pond. It wouldn't be difficult to defeat them on the outside, but killing them all would be very difficult. But now, the puppet chuckled in a sinister manner. All of the other ghostly beings immediately fell silent upon hearing this. A thought then suddenly occurred to the crimson-armored puppet, and it said, "Having said that, we can't just ignore the infernal lightning beast that was led away either. We need to send people after it. And if that man it's pursuing is quickly killed, or if something else happens to make it return in advance, then we have to be informed right away through our myriad distance talisman. Rest assured, Master, we've already sent White Ghost after them. She's the one who's most proficient among us in concealment and movement techniques, so she'll definitely be up to the task," the ghostly being hurriedly replied. "White Ghost, is that the one who managed to escape with only one arm amputated, despite facing the most powerful being among the intruders?" The crimson-armored puppet asked. "That's right. If she was sent out, then we should indeed have no issues. Let's go. The intruders have most likely entered the underground palace below the Divine Pond already," the crimson-armored puppet instructed. All of the ghostly beings immediately heeded its command, and 3 of them entered the blue passageway with the puppet, while the other 2 high-grade ghostly beings remained outside. One of them let loose a long howl, and countless black skeletons appeared from within the nearby dark clouds. Han Li waved a hand through the air, and 7 or 8 bolts of golden lightning erupted behind him, heading straight for a ball silver lightning situated over 1,000 feet behind him. It was none other than the infernal lightning beast that had been pursuing it for an immeasurable distance already. At the sight of the oncoming arcs of golden lightning, the beast wasn't intimidated nor fearful in the slightest. Instead, it immediately opened its mouth to expel a burst of silver light. As soon as the divine Devilbane lightning came into contact with this silver light, it was swept up in a soundless manner before being devoured by the beast. The infernal lightning beast licked its lips as bursts of dull rumbling erupted from within its stomach, and its eyes lit up as if it had just enjoyed a rare delicacy. Han Li was able to take advantage of this delay to open up some distance between himself and the infernal lightning beast. However, the beast wasn't flustered in the slightest upon seeing this. It merely snarled as silver arcs of lightning revolved around its 4 limbs before setting off in pursuit again. Han Li didn't even have to turn around to know what the beast was doing, as it had done the same thing countless times. Along this chase, this beast was a sliver faster than him, even when he was flying as quickly as he was capable of. So even though he was able to open up some distance, it didn't take long before the beast narrowed the gap again. After that, it would begin to attack him from afar. In the beginning, it would blast bolts of astonishingly powerful silver lightning out of its mouth. However, Han Li possessed his divine Devilbane lightning and lightning robe to protect himself, so he was able to handle those attacks with ease. The infernal lightning beast immediately stopped blasting lightning out of its mouth upon seeing this, and instead switched to unleashing azure claw projections. The projections started off at around the size of human hands, but not long after leaving the beast's claws, they would swell to around 10 feet in size. Several of those claw projections, hurtling through an area at once, could even suck away all the air in that area, giving one a sense that escape was impossible. If it weren't for Han Li's thunderstorm wings, allowing him to combine wind and lightning movement techniques for short periods of time, he would have most likely been severely wounded by those claw projections already. Even so, the situation was still extremely perilous for him, and he was even dealt a glancing blow by a claw projection not long ago, which had almost resulted in catastrophic circumstances. Thankfully, the all-encompassing flag the white-haired beauty had given him took effect on that occasion, manifesting a gigantic yin-yang projection that nullified most of the power from the attack. Even so, his suit of resentful armor was completely destroyed, and he had suffered some minor injuries. As such, Han Li naturally didn't dare to let the beast draw any closer. Every time the beast drew too close for comfort, Han Li would unleash his divine Devilbane lightning to stall its pursuit. The infernal lightning beast seemed to have realized that Han Li was a consistent source of divine Devilbane lightning, so it wasn't in a hurry to kill him and merely stalked him as if it were toying with its prey. Close to an hour had passed, and Han Li had already taken this beast out of the grey mountain ranges. He had only been able to last this long as he possessed far more magic power than other beings of the same cultivation base. He was proficient in movement techniques, and he had a large amount of divine Devilbane lightning at his disposal. If another deity transformation stage or even spatial tempering stage being were in his position, they would have most likely fallen prey to this beast already. It was no wonder that Liu Zhu and the others weren't optimistic about his chances of survival. In order to break the restriction on the Infernal River, Han Li had already used up a lot of his divine Devilbane lightning, and without a large supply of that lightning left, Liu Zhu and the others would naturally be led into thinking that he wouldn't last very long at all. Han Li was keeping a constant eye on the infernal lightning beast behind him while thinking of a way to escape, seeing as the demon monarchs had most likely already broken through the restriction on their end and no longer had any spare capacity to try and track him down. There was definitely no way that he'd be able to escape from this fearsome demon beast through normal methods. The only things he could rely on were his lightning beads, the two new types of talismans he'd refined, and his mature gold-devouring beetles. The first two of those three trump cards were disposable items, so he was planning to use them against the demon monarchs. But unleashing the gold-devouring beetles was extremely taxing on his spiritual sense. As such, he would refrain from using them unless he was in a truly dire situation. Countless thoughts raced through Han Li's mind as he tried to find a solution. He couldn't unleash too many gold-devouring beetles, as the after-effects would essentially cripple him. However, he could try releasing just a few to impede the infernal lightning beast behind him. The beetles didn't have to harm the beast. All they had to do was slow it down slightly, and he'd be able to escape. As a safety precaution, he could use his new talismans to assist him in that process, thereby even further elevating his chances of success. After much painstaking thought, Han Li finally managed to devise a course of action that was just barely feasible. He immediately took a deep breath and injected his spiritual sense into the Spirit Beast bracelet hidden on his body. Chapter 1. 1497. Battling the Infernal Lightning Beast. Following a string of resounding booms, Han Li unleashed his divine Devilbane lightning, and just as the Infernal Lightning Beast paused to devour the lightning, he rustled his sleeve to send 3 specks of golden light hurtling through the air. They were none other than 3 mature gold-devouring beetles. The Infernal Lightning Beast had just devoured the arcs of golden lightning with relish when it saw the golden beetles flying toward it. It faltered slightly in response before opening its mouth in a nonchalant manner. An arc of silver lightning erupted forth before splitting into 3 to strike the golden beetles. Thus the beetles were completely inundated by lightning, following 3 loud thunderclaps. However, in the next instant, a hint of surprise flashed through the infernal lightning beast's golden eyes. After the lightning receded, the 3 spirit insects were revealed, and not only had they not been reduced to dust, they had instead swelled to several times their original size as they continued flying toward the beast. Even though the infernal lightning beast's intelligence couldn't compare to that of a human, it had cultivated to an extremely high level, so it certainly wasn't some brainless buffoon. It had identified that these 3 beetles were rather peculiar, and it didn't dare to treat them with disdain any longer as it swept a set of claws through the air. 3 streaks of azure claw projections immediately hurtled forth, swelling drastically mid-flight before striking the 3 golden beetles. The claw projections exploded amid a sharp screech, and azure light inundated the 3 golden beetles. Gusts of fierce spiritual winds scattered in all directions as the world's origin chi in the surrounding area was sucked away by the azure light, and it was as if the entire space there was going to collapse. The infernal lightning beast seemed to be extremely confident in that attack, and it didn't even bother to check the result before it shot forth toward Han Li again. However, a faint buzzing sound then rang out from within the azure light, and an incredulous look appeared on the beast's face. Golden light flashed within the azure light, and the 3 golden beetles flew forth, reaching a spot that was only several tens of feet away from the infernal lightning beast in just a few flashes. Their bodies were shimmering with golden light, and they didn't appear to have been injured in the slightest. The infernal lightning beast was truly shocked this time, and a hint of ferocious killing intent welled up in its heart. It immediately opened its mouth to expel a swath of silver light that swept up the 3 golden beetles. The gold-devouring beetles were capable of devouring all things, but they were unable to immediately eat their way out of this silver light. Thus the infernal lightning beast inhaled deeply, and the silver light swept back to send the 3 gold-devouring beetles flying into its mouth. The beast gnashed at the golden beetles violently with its sharp fangs, then swallowed them into its stomach. It then crouched down as thunderclaps erupted from its 4 limbs, and it disappeared on the spot as a bolt of silver lightning again. Hanli had already taken this opportunity to fly over 10,000 feet away, and a peculiar look flashed through his eyes. He witnessed the scenes unfolding behind him. He then immediately flapped his wings and also disappeared as a translucent thread. Thus it appeared that the Han Li was back to square one. However, the infernal lightning beast seemed to have been completely infuriated by the beetles that Han Li had released earlier, and there was a lot more ferocity in its expression as it raced through the air. It seemed to be intent on killing Han Li now, and its subsequent actions reflected that desire. When Han Li unleashed his divine Devilbane lightning again, the infernal lightning beast merely passed through the arcs of lightning without any pause or delay. It no longer had any intention of fooling around with Han Li. Han Li's heart stirred upon seeing this, and he circulated his magic power throughout his body in a frenzy as he traversed through the air as a translucent thread in a wrath-like manner. Even so, the infernal lightning beast was quickly closing in on him, and there were soon only just over 1,000 feet between them. Lightning flashed on the back of the infernal lightning beast, and the silver arcs of lightning intertwined to form a pair of wings. The wings were around 20 feet in length each, and they were completely silver in color with countless runes hovering around them. The infernal lightning beast flapped those wings, and its body turned into a blur amid a rumbling boom. In the next instant, the infernal lightning beast emerged just over 100 feet behind Han Li as an arc of silver lightning, and the projection that was situated where it had been just a moment ago also disappeared on the spot. Shadow movement technique. Han Li could sense that something was amiss, and he turned around just in time to witness the aforementioned sequence of events. His face immediately paled as a sinking feeling appeared in his stomach. He had not anticipated that this beast would possess such a troublesome movement technique. Shadow movement techniques weren't the fastest movement techniques, but they were definitely the rarest and most mysterious. There weren't even all that many people in the world who had witnessed such movement techniques. If it weren't for the fact that Han Li had conducted extensive research on his own lightning movement technique back in Deep Heaven City, reading through many relevant tomes that were sold in the city, he wouldn't have been able to identify that movement technique so quickly. However, he clearly couldn't afford to stand around and wallow in his astonishment under such dire circumstances. As soon as the infernal lightning beast reappeared, it immediately flapped its wings toward Han Li. The wings of lightning then abruptly disappeared amid a loud thunderclap. Han Li faltered slightly upon seeing this, yet before he had a chance to react, a loud thunderclap erupted overhead, following which a massive net of lightning came plummeting from above, and it was upon him in the blink of an eye. Han Li's heart jolted with shock, and silver runes immediately surged around his body as he conjured up a new lightning robe, which flew through the air before also transforming into a net of golden and silver lightning to keep the oncoming arcs of silver lightning at bay. Immediately thereafter, azure light flashed around his body, and he hurtled back in retreat to rush out of the area encompassed by the lightning net descending from above. A hint of disdain appeared in the infernal lightning beast's eyes upon seeing this, following which its body blurred once again. Silver light flashed before Han Li, and the infernal lightning beast instantly appeared up ahead. At the same time, it slowly swiped its claws through the air, seemingly in a gentle and completely harmless manner. But Han Li felt as if the claws had been enlarged countless times, affording him no avenues for evasion or escape. Following a few rumbling booms, The surrounding air suddenly tremored before surging violently toward the spot right beneath the beast's claws, as if an invisible yet all-engulfing black hole had appeared there. Han Li's body stiffened before he was drawn forward by a burst of immense irresistible power, forcibly dragging him toward the beast's claws. His face paled even further, but a determined look then immediately flashed through his eyes. He suddenly opened his mouth to expel a small golden sword that was around several inches in length. And it only flashed once before transforming into a streak of golden light that hurtled toward the beast's claws. However, not only did the infernal lightning beast not withdraw its claws upon seeing this, a disdainful look appeared in its eyes instead. The streak of golden light crashed into a beast's claws with a loud clang, only to repelled back as a small golden sword as the golden light around it faded. Meanwhile, the beast's claws remained completely unscathed, and they hadn't even moved so much as a single inch. Not only that, but the beast's other paw shot forth like lightning to grab the sword in its claws. A vicious look then appeared in its eyes as its entire paw turned pure silver in color, and it brought its claws together with ferocious might to completely crush the golden sword. Not only were infernal lightning beasts blessed with extraordinary strength from birth, their bodies were as powerful as top-grade treasures. With those two attributes combined, it had crushed countless treasures with its sharp claws. As such, it had thought that it would be able to completely pulverize this small sword, just as it had done with countless treasures in the past. However, the golden sword merely tremored in its immensely powerful grasp, and the spiritual light emanating from the sword dimmed a little, but it remained completely unscathed. The beast had severely underestimated how robust Han Li's azure bamboo cloudswarm swords were. This sword had been refined with several types of rare materials by Han Li, and there were very few treasures as robust as it even in the spirit realm. The sword was unable to harm the infernal lightning beast, but the latter wouldn't be able to destroy the sword in a short time either. The infernal lightning beast was quite astonished by just how resolute this small sword was, and before it had recovered from its shock, a burst of golden light suddenly radiated from Han Li's body. He let loose a loud cry, and the golden light intensified in brightness as golden scales appeared all over his body. At the same time, golden light erupted from his back before manifesting a humanoid projection with 3 heads and 6 arms. The projection slowly extended its 6 arms in unison, sending a peculiar fluctuation running through the nearby space like ripples over the surface of a calm lake. With this split second of respite, Han Li flapped his wings, and a gentle breeze blew past as he disappeared on the spot. The infernal lightning beast let loose a low snarl as it clenched its raised paw into a fist, then lashed out at a certain spot in the air around 300 feet away. A resounding boom erupted as a burst of invisible power exploded, sending an invisible shockwave proliferating through the air in all directions. A humanoid figure was forcibly revealed from empty space by its attack, and it was none other than Han Li, who wore a stunned expression as he stumbled out of thin air. This beast had easily nullified his teleportation technique, and its powers were simply unimaginable to him. Han Li immediately shot back without any delay, and at the same time, he swept a sleeve through the air to hurl a dozen or so azure beads toward the infernal lightning beast. Those were none other than the lightning beads that he'd painstakingly refined, and he'd used up close to a third of his entire supply in one go, so he certainly wasn't playing around. A hint of disdain appeared on the infernal lightning beast's face upon seeing this, and its body blurred again as it tried to unleash its shadow movement technique to evade these oncoming lightning beads. However, right at this moment, Han Li suddenly made a hand seal, and the infernal lightning beast was struck by a burst of excruciating pain in its stomach, as if it were being stabbed on the inside. As a result, it was unable to unleash its shadow movement technique, and this split-second delay was all it took for the lightning beads to reach it. The infernal lightning beast was completely bewildered by the agony in its stomach, so it paid no heed to these seemingly nondescript beads. A loud thunderclap erupted as it half-heartedly conjured up a barrier of silver lightning, then hurriedly inspected its own internal condition. The carelessness with which the beast was handling the situation was very much a welcome sight for Han Li, and his eyes lit up as he made another hand seal without any hesitation. The dozen or so lightning beads flashed with azure light, then exploded in unison at his behest. Initially, only a dozen or so balls of azure lightning appeared. Those then swelled drastically in size as a dozen or so bursts of tremendous lightning attribute power erupted forth. A lightning cloud that was several acres in size appeared in an instant, completely catching the infernal lightning beast off guard as it enshrouded the beast's entire body. Lightning flashed violently amid resounding thunderclaps, and a roar of sheer fury erupted from within the lightning cloud. The beast was naturally proficient at devouring lightning, but this attack possessed power equivalent to that of several body integration cultivators attacking at once, so it was naturally unable to devour such immense and volatile power. Furthermore, Hanley was spurring on his gold-devouring beetles with all his might to eat the beast from the inside, thereby severely debilitating it through sheer agony, and it could only withstand the power of the lightning beads with its powerful body alone. The lightning cloud in the sky put the power of azure heavenly lightning on full display as arcs of azure lightning flashed amid deafening thunderclaps that were audible even from close to 100 kilometers away. Chapter 1. 1498 Nine Palaces, Heavenly Talismans. Meanwhile, Han Li wasn't just standing idly on the spot. He rustled both sleeves at once, and a series of talismans shot forth before circling through the air, shimmering with silver runes. These talismans were all quite mysterious, and 108 of them were summoned at once. Hanley made a hand seal before rapidly pointing his fingers in succession toward the lightning clouds down below with a grave expression on his face. The talismans immediately transformed into 108 streaks of silver light that disappeared right in front of Han Li. In the next instant, silver light flashed above the giant lightning cloud, and the silver runes reappeared. They surged through the air to form a strange diagram that encompassed the entire lightning cloud below. Hanley cast an incantation seal, and all of the talismans exploded in unison, creating a massive silver light formation. Within the formation, a projection of a large palace appeared in a mirage-like manner, as if it weren't actually a part of this world. The palace was shimmering with silver light, and there were countless runes dancing in the air above it. At the same time, heavenly music sounded, captivating the listener with its delightful beauty. However, as soon as the listener tried to listen more closely to the music, it would abruptly disappear. Han Li was ecstatic to see the realization of the formation, and he hurriedly made a hand seal. Upon the formation slowly descended. Right at this moment, a thunderous roar erupted from within the lightning cloud. Following a few earth-shattering thunderclaps, the azure lighting cloud tumbled and surged violently, and several arcs of lightning that were as thick as water tanks forced their way out of the lightning. The huge bolts of lightning circled around within the lightning cloud like a series of menacing giant dragons, and the entire lightning cloud was eradicated within moments. After the lightning cloud was eradicated, the arcs of lightning also disappeared, and the infernal lightning beast was revealed in the distance again. At this moment, the beast was in an extremely sorry state. Not only had its scales become dull and lusterless, the parts of its body that weren't covered in scales had been completely charred black. Only the single horn on its head was still shimmering with silver light as thin arcs of electricity revolved around it. Those thick bolts of silver lightning had clearly been unleashed by none other than that horn. What was even more surprising was that as soon as the beast was revealed, it immediately opened its mouth to expel a burst of crimson light, within which 3 flashing specks of golden light could be seen. Those 3 specks of light were emitting a faint buzzing sound, and they were none other than his gold-devouring beetles. They had been forced out of the beast's body by its immense magic power. A shiver immediately ran down Han Li's spine upon seeing this. After the beetles had been swallowed by the beast, Han Li had been overjoyed, and as a result, a hint of killing intent had welled up in his heart. Only after witnessing the scenes that had just unfolded did he realize how delusional he'd been. As such, he immediately relinquished any intention of killing this beast. Han Li looked down to discover his azure bamboo cloud-swarm sword was hovering beneath one of the infernal lightning beast's paws, and it was shimmering with faint golden light. It was quite clear that the infernal lightning beast had dropped the sword as it was too busy dealing with the attacks from the gold-devouring beetles and the lightning cloud. In any case, the sword didn't appear to pose any threat to it, so there was no need for it to pay it any heed. At this moment, the infernal lightning beast was glowering intently at Han Li with fury and ferocity in its eyes. Having just withstood that devastating string of attacks, it wanted nothing better than to tear Han Li apart with its bare claws. However, Han Li certainly wasn't going to stand around and wait for it. He waved a hand through the air, and the three gold-devouring beetles emerged from the crimson light before flying back to him. The small golden sword also tremored before abruptly disappearing on the spot. Golden light flashed as the small sword reappeared beside Han Li, then disappeared without a trace up his sleeve. Immediately thereafter, the gold-devouring beetles were also stowed away in the same manner. The infernal lightning beast faltered upon seeing this before letting loose a deafening roar of fury. Just as it was about to spring into action, silver light flashed above its head, and a massive light formation descended from above in a stealthy manner. With such a massive formation overhead, even if the infernal lightning beast hadn't noticed it at first, there was no way that the formation would continue to escape the beast's detection. It raised its head, and a hint of astonishment flashed through its eyes as it caught sight of the massive formation. A thunderclap erupted from its sharp horn, following which a thick bolt of silver lightning shot forth. The bolt of lightning struck the underside of the light formation amid a rumbling boom, but it then suddenly disappeared following a flash of silver light as if it had been engulfed by the formation. Only then did the beast realize the perilous situation that it was in. Lightning flashed from its four limbs as it immediately attempted to flee the scene, but it was already too late. The light formation rotated in mid-air before disappearing in a flash. Meanwhile, the infernal lightning beast had shot back over 100 feet, only for a burst of silver light to flash before its eyes, following which it found itself in a swath of white mist. It surveyed its surroundings to find countless tall walls and buildings around it, stretching as far as the eyes could see in all directions. The beast's heart jolted with shock initially, but it quickly calmed down. It had lived for countless years, and it had experienced more than its fair share of situations where it had been trapped in formations by its enemies, so it was able to remain tranquil and unflustered in this situation. It raised its head to look up into the sky, only to find a vast expanse of murky silver light that completely obstructed its vision. The infernal lightning beast cocked its head to the side and contemplated its current predicament, then rose up into the air as an arc of silver lightning slashing its claws through space during the process. A dozen or so azure claw projections hurled forth in a flash, crashing heavily against the silver light barrier. Silver and azure light intertwined amid a string of dull thump, and the silver light barrier tremored slightly before falling still again. The infernal lightning beast faltered in mid-air with a slightly surprised expression upon seeing this, seemingly slightly taken aback by how powerful this restriction was. Unbeknownst to the infernal lightning beast, this light formation had been conjured up by the 9 Palaces' heavenly talismans, which Han Li had only managed to refine after extensive periods of painstaking effort. There were a total of 108 such talismans, and they were extremely effective for trapping enemies. Of course, that also depended on what kind of being was trapped within this formation. At Han Li's current cultivation base, he wouldn't even be able to truly trap an average body integration stage being, let alone this infernal lightning beast. He was currently standing at the edge of the light formation, injecting his magic power into one of the 108 talismans in a frenzy. When the beast within unleashed that earlier attack, Han Li had felt a burst of immense power being transmitted into his body, forcing him to stumble back a few steps as his expression changed drastically. Thankfully, he was able to recover after circulating his magic power throughout his body. However, it was quite apparent that this restriction wasn't going to be able to contain this beast for long. After all, the gulf in cultivation base between himself and this infernal lightning beast was nothing if not night and day. However, he wasn't counting on this formation to trap the beast in the first place. All he needed was for it to buy him some time, seeing as the formation had temporarily trapped his opponent. Han Li immediately withdrew his hand before flapping his wings and flying away as a streak of azure light, heading straight toward the direction he'd come from. After a few flashes, Han Li had reached the end of the horizon, and he would disappear from view after just one more flash. However, right at this moment, Han Li's expression suddenly changed as he swept a hand through the air. Several tens of small golden swords shot forth in unison, piercing toward a certain spot in space. An astonishing scene then ensued. White light flashed from the location that the golden swords were flying toward, and a white-robed woman with a missing arm suddenly appeared. It was none other than that ghostly woman whom Han Li had battled once. The woman was also quite stunned that Han Li had managed to detect its presence. She seemed to be about to say something, But Han Li wasn't interested in hearing what she was about to say as a cold light flashed through his eyes. All of a sudden, a loud cry erupted from within one of his sleeves, following which a streak of black light shot forth, then faded to reveal a small black monkey. It was none other than the Weeping Soul Beast. Han Li was currently running for his life, and the last thing he needed was a prolonged battle with this ghostly woman. As such, he immediately summoned his Weeping Soul Beast to take care of her as quickly as possible. As soon as the white-robed ghostly woman caught sight of the Weeping Soul Beast, she let loose a sharp shriek as an expression of horror appeared on her face. She abruptly transformed into a streak of white chi and attempted to flee, but the Weeping Soul Beast was even faster, transforming into a massive ape that was several tens of feet tall in the blink of an eye, then letting loose a cold harumph to expel a swath of yellow light from its nostrils. The yellow light immediately enshrouded the streak of white chi, then dragged it back toward the Weeping Soul Beast. The white light faded to reveal the white-robed ghostly woman again, and in her horror, her white robes transformed into a pristine white barrier of light that completely shielded her entire body. Surprisingly enough, the barrier of light managed to withstand the Weeping Soul Beast's soul-devouring light. A grave expression appeared on the Weeping Soul Beast's face, and it let loose a low snarl as yin winds were swept up around it and countless arcs of lightning began to crackle in the surrounding area. The giant ape then swelled even further in size. Its fur began to turn red, and 3 twisted horns emerged from the top of its head. Its glabella split open to reveal a crimson demonic eye, and at the same time, its face elongated as it bared its mouthful of sharp fangs. 3 black bone spikes had also sprouted from its back, each of which was around 10 feet in length, with black yin chi swirling around them. The white-robed ghostly woman's horror was even further exacerbated by the sight of the Weeping Soul Beast's transformation. She suddenly let loose a long, sharp screech, sending a burst of invisible sound waves hurtling rapidly toward Han Li and the Weeping Soul Beast. However, Han Li was already prepared for this well in advance. He laid a hand on the back of his own head, and grey light erupted forth along with 5 colored flames, shielding both himself and the Weeping Soul Beast within. As such, Han Li managed to withstand the soundwave attack with nothing more than a slight pain in his spiritual sense. As for the Weeping Soul Beast, it was completely unaffected. Instead, a sinister look appeared on its face, and it slowly opened the demonic eye on its glabella to shoot forth a bolt of lightning as thick as a large bowl. The bolt of lightning was as vibrant red as blood, and it is able to completely ignore the white light barrier as it instantly punctured the body of the white-robed ghostly woman, who was completely immobilized by the Weeping Soul Beast's soul-devouring light. The ghostly woman let loose a howl of anguish as the crimson arc of lightning bound her body like a spirit snake, then forcibly dragged her through the air, taking her over to the Weeping Soul Beast in the blink of an eye. The beast opened its mouth and devoured her with any hesitation, then furrowed its brows before spitting out a black jade badge. Han Li made a grabbing motion to draw the badge into the grasp before giving it a brief inspection. This is a myriad distance talisman. Even though it was slightly different from the one used by humans, Han Li was still able to immediately identify it. A hint of surprise flashed through his eyes, and a contemplative look appeared on his face. All of a sudden, a burst of loud rumbling intermingled with a furious roar erupted from within the light formation in the distance. Han Li shuddered upon hearing this before hurriedly waving a hand toward the Weeping Soul Beast. The latter shrank down rapidly before disappearing up Han Li's sleeve, and at the same, Han Li stomped a foot onto the ground, transforming in a might azure bird as he flew away like lightning.